From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White. Prime Minister Mark Carney's trip across the Indo-Pacific now takes him to Japan. Carney set to meet with Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi and make statements to the media. Japan is one of Canada's closest partner countries and the last of the G7 countries Carney's visited since he took office almost a year ago. Officials have said Carney will meet with business leaders to boost trade. More than 20 U.S. states have filed a lawsuit challenging President Donald Trump's latest worldwide tariffs.
President Donald Trump implemented the 10% global duty last week after the United States Supreme Court struck down his previous tariff tool. The president's threatened to increase that to 15%, but he's not yet signed any executive order putting the change in place. These latest duties don't apply to goods compliant under the Canada-US-Mexico Agreement on Trade. In the lawsuit, Democrat attorneys general and governors argued that Trump is overstepping his power with his latest tariffs. They say he can't use Section 122 of the 1974 Trade Act because it was intended to be used only in specific and limited circumstances. Kelly Malone, The Canadian Press, Washington.
Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is off to Washington tomorrow to discuss CUSMA. LeBlanc's meeting with President Donald Trump's trade czar will come a day after the U.S. announced the start of bilateral discussions with Mexico. President Donald Trump says the U.S. wants the next supreme leader of Iran to bring harmony and peace. Trump also says he needs to be involved in choosing Iran's next leader. He calls the son of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei an unacceptable pick. Canada's Secretary of State for Defense Procurement says the government's planning to choose just one company to build the country's next fleet of submarines. Stephen Furr says the Canadian position has not changed, despite media reports this week suggesting the government might split the contract.
That is a competitive process. It's a limited competition, and it could be the biggest procurement we ever do if we get all 12 machines and we throw in infrastructure. And that thing's moving at a speed no one thought it would move at.
Germany's TKMS and South Korea's Hanwha Oceans are in the final stages of a heated competition for a multi-billion-dollar agreement to build up to a dozen submarines for the Navy. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says her government will consult the public on eliminating twice-yearly clock changes. British Columbia announced this week it would stick with permanent daylight time after the province springs forward an hour this weekend. Experts say standard time has been proven to be better for our circadian rhythm, but Smith prefers daylight time.
I kind of like the hour. I like more sunlight at night, and I think most people do too, because we are on daylight 8 months out of the year. So going to standard 12 months out of the year would be a big adjustment for people.
She says BC's planned shift and Saskatchewan's year-round use of Central Standard Time raises questions about whether Alberta should scrap the time changes as well. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, the Battle of the Brads of the Montana's Brier goes to the hometown favorite. Six-time Brier champ Brad Gushue of Newfoundland and Labrador beat defending champ and Olympic gold medalist Brad Jacobs 4-2 in today's afternoon draw in St. John's. Gushue enters tomorrow's playoffs as the top seed in Group A at 8-0, followed by Jacobs' Canada rank at 7-1. The Maple Leafs have made a move ahead of the NHL trade deadline. Toronto dealt center Nicholas Waugh to the Colorado Avalanche for a conditional first-round pick at the 2027 draft, along with a fifth-rounder in June. The Leafs are visiting the New York Rangers tonight. The Ottawa Senators visit the Calgary Flames, and the Winnipeg Jets can keep their slim playoff hopes alive tonight when they host the Tampa Bay Lightning. NBA action tonight has the Toronto Raptors on the road, taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the Associated Press reports the Buffalo Bills are acquiring wide receiver DJ Moore from the Chicago Bears. From the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White.